Hi, it's Dwyer. GamblersAdvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Today is August the 7th, 2017. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let me just say, some fights are optical illusions. I know the world right now is praising Vasyl Lomachenko, right, for his victory over Miguel Mariaga. But what I want people to do is to realize that someone somewhere put in great effort in picking an opponent for Lomachenko who was tailor-made for him. How far did they search? This fight was at 130 pounds for the WBO World Super Featherweight title. But yet Mariaga's last fight was at 125 pounds, 125, 126, right? I believe he weighed 125.5 pounds for the fight. And he lost that fight. So they went and found a guy who wasn't even fighting at 130, who had lost his last fight. And they fed him to Lomachenko. Let's go further. The style dovetailed completely. Lomachenko is very gifted in terms of his footwork. He's a guy who can move with you, who can put his front foot right up against yours and go to work. If you move away from him, he's able to reestablish the pocket quickly. And of course, he's high volume up top. He's throwing combinations. He has hand speed. So the wrong kind of opponent, in terms of an opponent who wants to win, is an opponent who is a counterpuncher, who's waiting for openings with Lomachenko, right? An opponent who's trying to create space and waiting for gaps in Lomachenko's defense, right? A patient opponent who is sitting back and waiting for openings is going to have a hard time with Lomachenko's pace, Lomachenko's fast break boxing. Lomachenko's going to be in front of you. He's going to be keeping you busy. He's going to lean in such a way where it's hard to find his body. Right? During pauses, he's going to tuck his head inside your comfort zone. So a fighter who isn't a lead puncher, is more of a counter puncher, who's waiting for things to break down a little bit before they actually throw punches, is going to be frozen against Lomachenko. So, as good as he looked in this fight, I don't believe he can fight this fight against Mikey Garcia. Right? Let's talk about the big knock on Lomachenko. I'm going to be critical even though I consider him to be one of the sport's best fighters. But yet this is another fight where I didn't see Lomachenko hit a guy who was hurt off a punch, who then hit the canvas. In other words, with Lomachenko fights, often the fight is stopped because the fighter, the opponent, quits on his stool. Haven't we seen a lot of that with Lomachenko? Nicholas Walters, how did that fight end? Jason Sosa, how did that fight end? This fight, Miguel Mariaga, how did that fight end? These guys are overwhelmed. They're outboxed. They're discouraged. When they're knocked down, like in this Mariaga fight, it seems to me that Lomachenko is skillful at catching guys when they're off balance, right? He moves well, he's sudden. Guys are off balance, they're not well positioned. Lomachenko hits you at the right time. and you go down. Now I want you to contrast that kind of knockdown with the knockout that Mikey Garcia got in his fight before the Adrian Broner fight. Folks, when Mikey Garcia blows you out, guys get hit, they're hurt. Right? They're not hitting the canvas because their feet got crossed and they got hit at the right time. They're hitting the canvas because they've lost consciousness momentarily. Right? You know, when he hits you, you know you're hit. A Mikey Garcia knockout is one where the other guy hits the canvas and is out cold. Or the other guy tries to get up and can't. Or the other guy is on the canvas and his corner's had enough. His corner throws in the towel. Right? The guy, most of the time, doesn't get the option of deciding whether he wants to continue from the comfort of his corner's stool. Right? Now I'm questioning openly here Lomachenko's power. Lomachenko fought this last fight at 130. Understand, Mikey Garcia fought Adrian Broner at 140. Let's say they meet in the middle, 135. Right? Mikey Garcia is going to be, in my opinion, the bigger man. Forget the heights. I'm just talking about how they fight. Right? Mikey Garcia is the guy with the bigger punch. Mikey Garcia is the guy who's going to be trying to push the action. Now let me say this, and again, I know I'm sounding critical. Just know that I consider both guys here, Lomachenko and Mikey Garcia, to be among the very best in the sport pound for pound. Right? The very best. But just understand, in my opinion, Lomachenko is a different fighter on his back foot than he is on his front foot. Let's remember how he lost. Let's remember that fight. Orlando Salido, who fought both guys, by the way. Right? Both guys. Let me point out something, too. While I didn't like the stoppage in the Salido fight, I believe I made some videos at the time. Right? While I didn't like the stoppage in the Salido fight, even I'll acknowledge that Salido's on the canvas against Mikey Garcia earlier in that fight. Isn't he? Right? Mikey Garcia comes out against a guy with a great chin and he drops him. Salido is lucky to have survived some rough rounds against Mikey Garcia. Salido never hits the canvas against Lomachenko because Lomachenko doesn't hit like Mikey Garcia. Let me point out too that Salido runs in on both guys. But you find out that when he runs in on Mikey Garcia, he hits a brick wall. Right? Salido understood he couldn't leave himself exposed throwing a bunch of body shots. But yet that's what he did against Lomachenko, because I believe a fighter can make a deal with the devil against Lomachenko. A fighter can say, you know what, I'm going to come inside here. I'm going to force him on his back foot. I'm going to go to the body. And if he hits me with some shots up top, I'm going to try to take them. Let me point out that you don't have that option against a gifted puncher. Right? If your game plan is to take punches from Mike Tyson, right? To, just take a few punches from Golovkin, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. The same thing applies to Mikey Garcia, who's a heavy puncher, folks. He's heavy-handed. Now, don't be fooled by the fact that Adrian Broner, who I consider defensively blessed, went the distance against Mikey Garcia. Right? Just understand that Adrian Broner, folks, as a professional, has never been stopped. Right? Mikey Garcia knows how to stop guys. He does it the old-fashioned way, with you twitching on the canvas. Don't be fooled by Lomachenko's KO percentage. With Lomachenko, the guy has a discussion with his corner. You know, his corner's like, hey man, you're losing the fight, player. You want to continue? And some opponents will say, yeah, no, that's it. You know what I mean? The corner will realize that, hey, we're losing this fight by a lot of points because Lomachenko's a gifted boxer. And then the opponent will step off the stage. Right? Nicholas Walters isn't on the canvas against Lomachenko. Rather, he quits in his stool. Right? Let's also remember the Gary Russell fight against Lomachenko goes the distance. So to me, there's a power gap. To me, Mikey Garcia, who's a master at cutting off the ring, is going to have Lomachenko moving out of the pocket just like Mikey had Adrian Broner moving out of the pocket. Let me point out too, I know Adrian Broner is not too popular right now with the boxing hardcore because he lost to Mikey Garcia, but Adrian Broner hits a lot harder. I mean a lot harder than Vasyl Lomachenko. Right? I know some people here online think Broner doesn't hit hard. Broner hits very hard. Let me also point out too that a good stiff jab would be able to keep Lomachenko from doing some of the things he does against Marriaga, who doesn't have a good stiff jab. Understand, this guy was cherry-picked for Lomachenko. Right? Different weight class here. Come fight for the title at 130. You know, you're a counter-puncher who stays in the pocket and wants someone to come to him who you could read and throw counters on. Step right up. We know Lomachenko's footwork is such that he's going to be too fast. He's going to throw punches in bunches. He's a combination puncher. He's going to set a pace that Marriaga simply couldn't match. I think of Mikey Garcia operating behind a jab. Let's remember, a good jab can offset a hand speed deficit. Right? After he beat Shane Mosley, who at the time had lightning hands, the late great Vernon Forrest looked at the camera and said, young guys, you know, throw your jab. Right? A good jab can slow down a fast combination puncher. Let me point out too, different era. Thomas the Hitman Hearns, his first fight against Ray Leonard, was winning the fight on the scorecards. Look it up. He's winning the fights on the scorecard when he gets stopped. Right? Now, if Mikey Garcia comes forward on Vasyl Lomachenko, gets Lomachenko on his back foot, and let's face it, Nicholas Walters too slow-footed to do so. Right? Jason Sosa, who I thought would do better. Quite frankly, I should have gotten the over in that fight. I don't know why dude quits half a round before the over hits, but Jason Sosa didn't have the power to keep Lomachenko backing up. Mikey Garcia does. Right? I think Mikey Garcia, who has fought at bigger weights than Lomachenko, right? I believe Mikey Garcia has the power, has the jab, has the two-handed attack, knows how to cut off a ring. Right? I think Mikey would never quit on his stool. Keep in mind, he's still an unbeaten fighter. Right? Mikey's not going to go the Nicholas Walters route. I'll concede Walters was unbeaten at the time. He's not going to go the Miguel Marriaga route. I know you're hearing Marriaga hits the canvas twice against Lomachenko. Folks, both of those were kind of, you're off balance, you're hit, you go down. Right? Neither of them look like Mike Tyson dropping Trevor Burbank, where the guy gets hit so hard that he's down, then when he tries to stand up, his body's not ready to stand up. right? Mikey Garcia hits like Mike Tyson for his size. If this fight is ever announced, I'm going to go with Mikey Garcia against Vasyl Lomachenko. Quite frankly, I think Garcia would have more trouble against Jorge Linares, a guy who has hand speed, faster hands than Mikey, who actually hits harder than Vasyl Lomachenko. Right? So, we're going to have some big fights. A lot's happening between 130 and 140 pounds. You have some great fighters, right? Terrence Crawford, the king at 140. Right? Mikey Garcia, who held the belt at 135, decided to test the waters at 140, and recently beat Adrian Broner. You have Lomachenko, who Bob Arum, his promoter, who used to promote Muhammad Ali, right? Who promoted guys like Marvin Hagler. Bob Arum is saying that Vasyl Lomachenko reminds him of Ali. Right? You have Jorge Linares, who beat Anthony Crolla in the UK, traveled to the UK to beat him. If you look at Linares' record, you realize he's been a champion in multiple weight classes. Right? So, these lightweights, super featherweight / lightweight / junior middleweights, they're going to figure out who's king. But just know, if a fight between Mikey Garcia and Vasyl Lomachenko is announced, I'll be rolling with Mikey Garcia. Orlando Salido forced Lomachenko on his back foot, came forward, hit him with a lot of body shots. Right? As Teddy Atlas says, he took the air out of his tires. Right? Lomachenko, who likes to fight at a certain speed, who likes to be the guy with the superior foot speed in the ring, who doesn't like to be smothered, got bullied that fight. Right? I believe guys on their front foot with more punching power than Lomachenko, who are willing to trade a little bit, who are two-handed, so Lomachenko has to put up with different angles. Guys who can lead, not pure counters, but switches, right? A guy who can counter when he needs to, but who can lead when he wants to. I believe that kind of fighter would give Lomachenko big-time problems, right? Mikey Garcia against Vasyl Lomachenko, I'm going with Mikey Garcia in that one. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Let's also flip it up even further. If there's a hedge there, I believe the hedge would be Lomachenko by decision. Why? Because I question Lomachenko's power, and because he has stopped his last few opponents. Right? I believe the line is going to be a bit inflated for Lomachenko by stoppage. Right? I think Lomachenko by decision would be the hedge for me. I just can't see him stopping Mikey Garcia. In fact, for more savvy gamblers, right, I believe, just thinking it through here out loud, the play would be Mikey Garcia to win. Right? Hedged with the over. This way, you would win both halves of the bet if Mikey Garcia wins the fight by decision. Right? I personally wouldn't be surprised, though, if Mikey got a stoppage in the bout, because that's what Mikey does, and I do consider Adrian Broner to have better defensive skills than Vasyl Lomachenko. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.